Namaste, welcome to the Advaita channel. Today I'm going to be reading from The Transparency of Things, Contemplating the Nature of Experience by Rupert Spira. Welcome to anyone that's joining from YouTube. If you wish to make comment, you can do. You need to be signed in. I'm very happy to have you here with me, with us, with the Sangha of Being. Venerations to our masters. Sadhguru Mujiji Ki Jai. Sadhguru Anantaji Ki Jai. So, Namaste, Nikhil. Very happy to have you here. And so, what I do is I read from this contemplative book that lead us into the felt experience of our essential nature, of this conscious presence that we are. Very, very clear, very, very direct, very beautifully sees Rupert's teachings, pointing. And there's natural breaks, and we'll stop there for some silence and then resume. Hope it's possible to hear me okay. If it's not, please do make comment in the actually, just excuse me, I've got to plug the laptop in, otherwise the battery's going to go. 1 second. Thank you, Atma. Namaste. Lovely to have you here. Okay. There are not two things. We experience only one thing. There is only ever one experience present at any time. This alone is an invitation to see that consciousness and reality are one. However, we misinterpret the nature of this experience. Suffering is another name for this misinterpretation. From the conventional point of view, our experience consists of a multitude of different objects comprising various combinations of mind, body, and world. That is, it comprises thoughts, images, bodily sensations, and sense perceptions. Each of these objects is usually considered to have independent existence. They are considered to be independent both from that which observes them and from one another. We think that we experience 10,000 things simultaneously, and that each of these things comes, remains, and goes in its own time, according to its character and the prevailing circumstances. For instance, we think that a mountain lasts longer than a tree, and that a tree lasts longer than a thought. However, none of these 10,000 things is ever actually experienced as a discrete object. The totality of our experience at any moment is a seamless whole. This seamless whole may seem to comprise a complex, compound object of mind, body, and world. Yet it is a cohesive, unified experience. It may be complex, but it is not fragmented. It is a seamless experience. It is one experience. However, the mind fragments this seamless whole. It fragments the totality of our experience. It abstracts single objects, such as a car or a chair, and confers the status of independent reality on each one. The object referred to as car or chair is a concept. It is not an experience. It is a useful concept, but nevertheless, it is a concept, not an experience. The concept of the car or chair is itself part of the complex, multifaceted object that is experienced. But we never actually experience the single object, the car or the chair, to which the concept refers. In the process of this abstraction, the body and the mind are also conceptualized as objects that possess separate, and independent existence, which, although related to some of the other conceptualized objects, nevertheless have their own separate and individuality. This little enclave of objects called the mind and the body is given special status in this process of abstraction. It is partitioned off from all the other conceptualized objects, and strangely, it is given the status of subject. It is considered to be me, whilst all the other conceptualized objects, including of course everyone else, are considered to be other. We circumscribe certain objects with a boundary that is composed only of an idea. This idea seems to divide the seamless totality of experience into me and not me. Everything on the inside of this boundary is referred to as me, and everything on the outside is referred to as the world, as other. However, this division never actually takes place. Thank you, Emma, for the lovely comment and for the love that you're holding a presence for here today, Nikhil. It's lovely to share, and this really is very beautiful. A very simple experiment will show the falsity of this interpretation of experience. Place your hand on a nearby surface, such as a table. A new sensation will be generated by the contact of the hand and the table. It is a single sensation. Now ask yourself, do I feel the table? The answer is obviously yes. Now ask yourself, do I sense my hand? The answer is obviously yes. So in this experience, we readily admit that we feel both our hand and the table. However, is this new sensation that is generated by our hand touching the table two sensations? No, it is one. Yet we have acknowledged that both our hand and the table are experienced there. Therefore, the new sensation that is experienced is neither hand nor table. It is not even correct to say that it is a combination of the hand and the table, because in such a statement we are combining two conceptualized objects that are never experienced as such. They are non-existent as separate and independent entities. To formulate the result of the experiment in these terms would be to use concepts that are themselves disproved by the very experiment that we are conducting. So let us call this new sensation that is generated by our hand touching the table sensation A. Of course, it is not possible to conduct this exact experiment in real life, because it is not possible to isolate a hand and a table. There will always be other elements present. Now let us add one new element. Imagine that a blue wall is placed behind the hand on the table. A new sensation, which is now the combination of sensation A with the blue wall, will appear. However, just as we concluded in the previous experiment, there is, in this new experience, no separate sensation A, nor a separate blue wall. Both sensation A and the blue wall are concepts that are not actually experienced as such. Similarly, to formulate our new experience as a combination of both A and the blue wall is again to use concepts that are disproved by the new experiment. So let us call this new sensation that is derived from the inclusion of the blue wall sensation B. If we carry on ad infinitum with this experiment, adding objects as we proceed, we will arrive at a sensation called sensation Z, which comprises 10,000 things. This would in effect be the totality of our current experience. This experiment shows that we do not actually have the experience of separate, isolated objects. The concept of separate, isolated objects is an interpretation of our experience. It is not a description of it. The interpretation is a useful hypothesis, but it is a mistake to confuse the interpretation for the actual experience. This experiment demonstrates two facts about experience. It shows that we do not experience 10,000 things. We do not experience a multiplicity of objects. Two objects cannot exist at the same time. We experience one thing, a multifaceted object comprising mind, body, and world. And this one thing refers to the totality of our experience at any moment. The second thing that we learn from this exploration is that the boundary line we draw around a small enclave within the totality of our experience, and which we label me, is an arbitrary one. It bears no relation to actual experience. For instance, it is not possible to draw a clear line between the body and the world. This is clearly seen if we ask ourselves whether sensation A, the hand table, is on the inside, the me side, or the outside, the other side of the boundary. As hand, it is on the inside. As table, it is on the outside. And yet we have seen it is neither hand nor table. It is one thing. If it is one thing, one seamless experience, the line that divides it into me and other must be non-existent. This is our actual experience from moment to moment. Another way to describe this last discovery would be to say that by removing the conceptual boundary between the me and the not me, we have reduced the status of what was previously considered the subject, me, the mind and body, to the status of object, along with the rest of the world. However, it is not even quite true to say that by removing the arbitrary boundary, the mind and the body are reduced to the status of object. For by removing this arbitrary boundary line, we simultaneously remove the categories of me and not me, the categories of subject and object, for one implies the other and cannot therefore stand alone. We are left, therefore, with one thing, the seamless totality of experience, before it is conceptualized into 10,000 things, the raw reality of our experience before the me is arbitrarily divided from the not me, before the notion of a subject and an object arise. There are not two things. However, it is also in fact going too far to say that there is one thing. As soon as we make an object of it, a subject is implied, and again we are in the realm of duality of two things. So one thing implies two things. As soon as we name it, however transparent the word we use, some degree of objectivity, and by implication therefore subjectivity, is implied. At the same time, we have to recognize that whatever it is that we are trying to speak about is not nothing. So let us refer to this as a seamless totality or oneness, on the understanding that even these words confer a shadow of objectivity on that which cannot in any way be described by words or mind, and yet which itself illumines all words and minds. Inherent in this seamless totality of experience is the presence of a witnessing consciousness. Whatever it is that experiences this seamless totality is present by definition within that totality. However, this witnessing consciousness is not present within the experience as a little entity somewhere inside it, but rather throughout the totality of the experience. There is no part of an experience where this witnessing consciousness is not present. In order to make a more thorough exploration of the nature of our experience, we will again draw an artificial line within the seamless totality of experience, within this oneness, and provisionally separate the witnessing consciousness from the witnessed mind-body world. This separation is conceptual only. For the sake of clarity and understanding, it never actually takes place. Within every experience, there is something that perceives, and there is something that is perceived, whatever that something is. Whatever it is that perceives is referred to as subject, and whatever is perceived is referred to as object. We conceptually separate the perceiver from the perceived in this way, although this time it is not the mind and the body that are the subject, the perceiver, and the world that is the object, the perceived. Rather, it is consciousness that is the perceiving subject, and the mind-body world that is the perceived object. Again, we are in the realm of duality, of subject-object relationship. However, this time we are closer to the facts of our experience. This time, consciousness is the subject, and the mind-body world is the object. Previously, the mind and body was the subject, and the world, including others, was the object. In dividing experience in this way, we are using the very same conceptualizing powers of the mind that were initially responsible for dividing the unity of experience into a multiplicity of objects, of which a small enclave, the mind and body, were labelled me, the subject, and the rest were labelled not me, the object. So now we have divided the unity of experience into a subject, consciousness, that witnesses, an object, the mind, body, world, which is witnessed. So now we have divided the unity of experience into a subject, consciousness, that witnesses, and an object, the mind, body, world, which is witnessed. The object, the objective aspect of experience, is, in most cases, so engaging and compelling that the presence of consciousness is usually overlooked. In order to draw attention to this witnessing presence of consciousness, we have artificially divided our experience into two. We divide oneness into a perceiving subject and a perceived object. The objective aspect of experience, that which is known or perceived, changes at every moment. The subjective aspect of experience, that which knows or perceives, never changes. Consciousness is that which experiences. We do not know what this consciousness is, but we know that it is. We know it is present, that there is something that is registering, witnessing, knowing the current situation. Nor do we know exactly what the perceived object is, but we know that it exists. That is, has reality, existence, being. In any experience, we do not experience two things. Every experience is one. Consciousness and its object are always one. There is no division between them. Every objective experience is a seamless whole, consciousness object. Here it's written consciousness/object. Therefore, having separated this seamless whole into subject and object for the purpose of establishing the presence and independence of this witnessing consciousness, we take it a step further and re-establish the seamless whole. In fact, we only reassert it because it has always been such. This could be called the return of the prodigal son. And the moment of looking back towards the Father is the moment of recognizing that consciousness is present. Consciousness loses itself in the world of objects. The moment it turns its attention away from objects towards itself, it recognizes itself. As it turns its attention more and more towards itself, it becomes absorbed in itself. The moment the Son takes a step towards the Father, he begins to unite himself, his experience, with the Father. The world of objectivity, or rather consciousness lost in the world of objectivity, which is represented by the Son, is reintegrated with the Father. In reality, it is the Father who comes running to meet the Son. It is consciousness that reclaims the world of objectivity. Consciousness projects the world of objectivity from within itself and then reclaims that world. The Father knows that the Son never leaves the kingdom. But the Son, that is, consciousness believing itself to be an object, has forgotten this, and so he has to return. In reality, the Son is reclaimed, not returned. Thanks, Atma. Atma said consciousness loses itself in worlds of object, in the world of objects, yeah. Yes, it's only then when we think we are the person. Yeah, absolutely. When we identify with this body mind and don't fail to recognize that consciousness is ever present as the totality of our experience. This knowing is present in sensation, in hearing, in in perceiving, as one one experience. And this is what's so beautiful, is it? This leads you into feeling that, into recognizing the assumptions that divide and fragment up our experience through concepts, through identifying with me inside here in this body, as opposed to the outside world, which is separate and outside of me. But of course, what Rupert's saying here is that this can even be done in non-duality or in self-inquiry, where we separate consciousness from the objects of perception. And that's okay. I think what he says and has said previously is that that's okay to come to understand ourselves as not this body and mind. Initially, we need to say, okay, what is this that is perceiving? But in time, we go a step further and recognize that the apparent objects are still only this consciousness itself. That is the substance of everything, because the direct experience is not of object, it's still the same knowing, still the same experiencing. So this will be final page before we come to a close. So there are not two things. There is only consciousness, presence, oneness. Consciousness is the totality of our current experience. Taking the shape, so consciousness is the totality of our current experience. Taking the shape of this current experience now, and now, and now. Our experience is always only an expression of this consciousness. It is always only an expression of oneness. Its substance is always only ever consciousness. There is nothing other than this consciousness, taking the shape of our moment by moment experience, and yet always remaining itself. And when no experience is taking place, such as in deep sleep, the timeless interval between perceptions or on the fulfillment of a desire, consciousness is still always only itself. So we arrive at the same place we started. Our experience is exactly the same as it always was and is. But our understanding, our interpretation has changed. And because our interpretation has changed, it seems that our experience changes. We started with the concept that the world contains the body, which in turn contains the mind, which in turn contains a little invisible spark of consciousness, which is at best considered to be a byproduct of the world and at worst is overlooked altogether. And we end with the understanding that consciousness is the ever-present reality of all things, and that everything appears within it and as an expression of it. We understand and feel that consciousness witnesses and expresses itself simultaneously in every experience, and that is what we are, always changing, always the same. So we understand and feel that consciousness witnesses and expresses itself simultaneously in every experience, and that is what we are, always changing, always the same. Our experience is a seamless, indivisible totality. It is oneness. It is simply experiencing. There are never two things that are experienced. Our experience is always only consciousness. By reasoning in this way, the mind is brought to the limits of its knowledge. It is brought to see the falsity of its ideas, and in doing so, a new possibility becomes available. Because consciousness ceases to veil itself from itself with erroneous ideas. That means wrong ideas. It ceases to veil itself with its own creativity. Consciousness looks in the mirror of experience and no longer sees the face of another. It sees its own face. It sees itself in all things and all things in itself. Thank you, Atma. Atma saying that she really enjoyed the reading very, very much. To hear the pointings of Rupert. And Nikhil says thank you for sharing, really appreciate it. Thank you, namaste. It's a great joy really to share in this, namaste Atma, to share in this and to allow the falsity of concepts to be revealed, which allows us, as it says, to to come to rest, which is already what's already present. So Rupert's way of explaining things is very, very clear. Some of the words might be a little technical, but the general sort of feeling is possible to get there. Yeah, it's just a joy, to rest in this. So thank you. Thanks for joining the Advaita channel today. I won't be able to share next Sunday. I'm not present, but the following Sunday I will be. But there are many other people reading the Advaita channel, different texts, so please join them too. But for now, I'm going to end the broadcast. Sadhguru Mujijiki Jai. Sadhguru Anantajiki Jai. Sangha Ji Ki Jai.